Aw, yeah. Let's get this party started up in here. Whoop, whoop. Hey, this is Mark. You're listening to this show probably on your mobile device, whether it's iOS or Android or even Windows Mobile. Who has one of those? But anyway, you're probably listening whether it's iTunes or Stitcher or some other wonderful mobile app that brings this amazingly awesome show to your ear holes. Yeah, but did you also know that you can find this show among several others in this category at the Tangent Bound Network? That's right, go visit tangentboundnetwork.com, check it out, where you can always get the latest episode of this and other shows quite like it. Although, admittedly, there is no show quite like this one.
Hello, everybody. This is the MLBeers podcast with your hosts Andrew Sherman and Philip Korn. Philip, how you doing today?
Doing all right. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I feel pretty rested. Woke up late. Woke up around 10 in the 10 this morning. So I feel pretty rested for the whole day. So, it's gonna be fun no matter what. What about you? What's been going on with you since this past week,
not a whole lot. I did the same thing. I got out of bed at 11 today after putting the kids on the bus at 8. So it felt nice to actually sleep in a little bit.
Nice. Nothing wrong with that at all. I bet they get jealous that you get to sleep in.
No, they don't give a shit. If they did, they wouldn't wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning.
True. But they care about their edumacation, right?
Apparently.
Hey, it happens. It happens. But anyway, what we're going to be talking about on this show today is, of course, what we're drinking for today. A little bit of the pitch clock and the whatsoever hot stove, which we'll just get into that right now, which supposedly this afternoon, this morning, I should say.
Something almost cooked up and then it was turned off.
Yeah, pretty much. It was the rumor and quote-unquote deal that the Houston Astros traded for pitcher Garrett Cole from the Pittsburgh Pirates, which we were excited. I was excited because it's finally hot stove is happening. The burner was finally turned on, and we're starting to boil some water in the kettle, but it just turned out to be nothing. And I was very disappointed in that.
Yeah. Garrett Cole was the talk of trades this past, trade deadline season, and then this whole offseason as well. And, Pirates are a team that could benefit from the Astros farm system because they got some guys, Preston Tucker, Derek Fisher. I saw some other names tied to it. Colin Moran.
Yep.
And I think another pitching prospect.
Yeah, Forrest Whitley is another guy, and then I saw another guy named Kyle Tucker, which I do not know if he is related to Preston Tucker, but definitely they both play the same position in the outfield. But, which is, I guess, really it's just a coincidence. But, before we got on here, you were kind of talking about when this was quote-unquote a deal. You brought up the whole situation that they could trade Derek Fisher and Kyle Tucker, which of course then, brought up the whole, if
they're both outfielders.
Yeah.
And
so
if you know the Pirates outfield.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you know the Pirates outfield right now, it's Andrew McCutchen, Starling Marte, and Gregory Polanco.
Mm-hmm.
Is that his name, Gregory? Gregor.
Yeah, hold on. Let me get this up. Let's be correct on this.
Yeah, don't make me guess.
But then again, I like it when you guess. Yeah, it's Gregory Polanco. You were right. Because I know there's a
Correct.
Gregor Polanco, too.
Yeah. And, McCutcheon, he had a good bounce back season,
Mm-hmm.
but, he was forced to go back to center field when Starling Marte was suspended for 82 games.
Mm-hmm.
And their original plan was to have him start out in right field last season. And depending on how well he can bounce back, Derek Fisher and Kyle Tucker that offer a 5-man outfield, essentially,
Yeah.
with a nice platoon option in left and right field. I'm not sure if they play center field or not, but Starling Marte pretty much has that position locked down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and from what I see from Fangraphs.com, they, looking at the normal depth charts of the 2017 Pirates compared to, what their positions are, McCutcheon 85% of the games was out in center, Marte was out in left, and then Gregory Polanco was out in right field for 80% of those games. But some of the guys that they have there, Adam Frazier, he came up through the system, which he did. I mean, he did well. He was above average at a 276, 344, and 399 slash line. And, I mean, he did well for them. But if you look at Derek Fisher's numbers, because he would be kind of the key piece to get him
because
there.
he's MLB ready.
Yeah. And from his numbers, he had 166 plate appearances. He, in 2017, yeah, he was a little bit on the downside. He went 212, 307, and 356. But his BABIP's right on the border at a 299. I know it's 300, but it's right on the border. He does have a little bit of a below average isolated power and all that stuff, but he has a lot of upside. That is last year was literally his first time up in the majors. And he's only, if I can look at this real quick, he's only 24 years old. So the sky's still the limit.
And in AAA last year, in 84 games, he was batting .318.
Yeah.
His on-base percentage was .384. OPS, 967.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe start the year off in AAA, wherever he's at. And he's a type of guy, if he starts out hot and forces your hand, then good.
Mm-hmm.
If he starts out batting over 300 the first month of the season, then you're forced to call him up. But if he starts off a little mediocre and takes a while to get hot, he's the type of guy that will get called up in late May, June.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's going to start the season being 23 years old.
Yeah.
So, how many home runs did he have?
Let me look at it for real.
21 home runs in 84 games.
Yeah.
In AAA.
Yeah.
So he has obvious power.
Mm-hmm.
And 22 home runs was his career high. And that was in rookie and A plus, and that was in 123 games.
Mm-hmm.
And in 84, he hit 21. In 84 games last year in AAA, he hit 21. So obviously he's figured something out with his power. He was able to hit for average in AAA plus power.
Mm-hmm.
So you would think he's ready.
Mm-hmm. And I mean the opportunity is there, for him. I mean, looking at the 40-man, the 40-man roster on MLB.com, I mean, there's still Marwin Gonzalez, Josh Reddick, and George Springer, which those are the main pieces out in the outfield. I know Marwin Gonzalez is our favorite guy because he was the super utility, which he didn't do much in the playoffs, but, we really liked him. He was hitting well from what we saw stat-wise, and, I had him on my fantasy baseball team, so he was actually, putting up good numbers. But for Derek Fisher, he's kind of in this weird situation where if Marwin Gonzalez would go down, because I believe looking at the Houston Astros line depth chart by position, Derek Fisher played 40 games. 40% of his games out in left field, and Marwin Gonzalez was at 50%. He played 1%. He played 1% out in the center field and played 3% out in right field, which then would still be perfect because, again, like you brought up, Gregory Polanco was out for 82 games last year with PEDs, and McCutchen had to play in that spot. But now that now that Polanco is back, Derek Fisher could platoon with him, and you said that, before we started the recording of this.
Yeah, and during the season, when the Astros went out and traded for Justin Verlander, they were adamant on not trading Kyle Tucker, and that could be one reason why the Pirates aren't making this deal.
Mm-hmm.
Because they want Kyle Tucker, but I think the Astros want to hold on to him because he's only 20 years old.
Yeah.
In 2017, he started off in high A, and he ended in double A.
Mm-hmm.
So in 120 games total, he hit 274. Ooh.
I'm
sorry, folks.
Excuse you.
Yeah, that was bad. That was bad.
It's all good. Hope your nose is not bleeding.
No, we cleaned the house today, so we dusted everything, so it's all just...
Oh, it's just sitting in the air until it settles. Oof.
Yeah.
Not fun. But getting back to what you were saying about Kyle Tucker real quick.
Is that he's only 20 years old, and I think the Astros want to hold on to him because they have an aging Josh Reddick and Marwin Gonzalez.
Mm-hmm.
And they see him being able to supplement the core of Springer, Correa, Bregman, and Altuve.
Mm-hmm.
Towards Kyle Tucker would be that next wave, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Because by the time, he'll probably spend another year in Double A and Triple A. And if he outperforms, then obviously he would be called up, but most likely he won't.
Yeah.
And so you can look for him in 2019. And like I said, that core is going to be a little older and a little closer. They'll be being paid higher in arbitration, and they'll be a little closer to their walk years.
Yep.
As in Derek Fisher's ready now. And they don't want to have to go through the ups and downs of a player who is ready now, but is obviously going to have the little bit of the struggles of adjusting to major league pitching.
Mm-hmm.
As in with Kyle Tucker, he'll be called up towards the end of that core's arbitration years and close to their free agent years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're right about that. Looking at Kyle Tucker's numbers on Fangraphs, this past year in 2017, I kind of wish they did the splits, but they didn't put it together, which kind of makes me mad. But in single A plus,
he hit 288,
379, 554 slash line, and a WRC plus of 159. He has good numbers all around. He hit, even though he doesn't have power, he hit 9 home runs. But then once you look at his double A numbers, 16 home runs, a little less on the slash line, 265, 325, and 512. But he still has that. He still is good enough to do it.
But what's a little concerning is he played in the Arizona Fall League.
Mm-hmm.
In 22 games, his slash line is 214, 305, 310.
And it is a little bit concerning. Don't get me wrong on that.
Because that's a steep drop off.
Yes.
So was it a fatigue issue? Because he played 72 games in Double A, 48 in High A.
Mm-hmm.
So what is that?
If I can do my calculations real quick, that's 120 games.
Okay, so in 120 games, he was hitting for the year 274, 346, 528.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, in 120 games. In a major league season, he's going to have to play another 42 games.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going to happen, it looks like a fatigue issue.
I could see that, but this is how I see
Because
it.
120
Yeah,
games is the most he's ever played in his pro career.
Mm-hmm.
Because in 2016, he played 117.
Mm-hmm.
2015, he played
Only 63 games.
Yeah. No, he played in 2 leagues. He only played 63 games in 2015.
Yeah, like I said.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Whatever. But it looks to be a little bit of a fatigue issue.
And, I mean, you could be right. For me, though, looking, he was in the Arizona Fall League. These are the cream of the crop prospects. And, I mean, I know that this year a couple of Cardinals went there. I'm pretty sure a couple of Royals players, got there. And there's only 4 or 5 teams in the Arizona Fall League. Like, it's a very small league.
I'll bring up the MVP of the NFL of the Arizona Fall League.
Go ahead.
Was Nicky Lopez, the Kansas City Royals.
Oh yeah, you had to do that, didn't you? You had to do that.
I'm just saying. In 20 games, he hit 383, 433, a 568 slugging, and a 1.001 OPS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's just looking at it real quick. There's only 6 teams, but keep on going.
Yeah, and just to compare, Nicky Lopez is 22 years old, so he played in college. He came out of Creighton, so he has a little bit better experience than Kyle Tucker.
Mm-hmm.
2016 was his first year. He only played 62 games, and this is Nicky Lopez. He hit 281, 393, 429.
Mm-hmm.
Then in 2017, he played in, just like Kyle Tucker, he played in high A and double A. Combined, he hit 279, 348, 356.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in 129 games.
Mm-hmm.
So he's already played more games than Kyle Tucker.
Dang. And it makes sense,
Kyle Tucker started playing pro ball when he was 18. They're taking it slow. So to me, it looked like that he had a little bit of a fatigue issue going into the fall league.
Mm-hmm. And which, again, it does happen like that. And
yeah, especially when they're that young.
Mm-hmm. Because the college baseball season is early in the year, and this is, going back with Nicky Lopez playing in Creighton. By the time that, if I'm looking at this correctly, he was drafted in 16, correct, Lopez?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, no.
Or 15.
He played 15 because he played a full rookie ball league in 16.
Okay. So, looking at this, Nicky Lopez has already, you've already brought it up, already had more at-bats, he's played more games. When you look at this is the difference between looking at college players and looking at high school players. High school players probably play until 1st of May, maybe last week of April, or give or take. Season starts in March for high school players, here in Missouri, at least. When you look at it from a college perspective, I believe it's 2 weeks away until, it's either the 1st or 2nd week of February, the college season starts. And it ends in May, mid-May, or mid to the end of May. That's 30 plus games. I mean, records in the I believe the win-loss record for for Oregon State last year was like 49-1 in the regular season. So you have 50 games right there compared to 30 games or so. And then you got to add conference tournaments, which that's a 3 to 4 games. Then you got to add more games if you make it to the College World Series, from the regionals to super regionals to the actual World Series. And Nicky Lopez, who did he play for? You said Creighton, right?
I'm pretty sure it was Creighton, but let's
check that real quick
before we just keep making stuff up.
Well,
yeah, he played for Creighton.
Okay. So Creighton, the past few years that I can think of, decent squad, nothing, they haven't been to the, I don't believe they made it to this past College World Series and all that stuff. But back then, they probably would have been a decent club, 500 club probably, fought to, win a conference tournament, because anybody can win the conference tournament. I mean, hell, I believe, if I remember correctly, I know Missouri State didn't win it because they had like these odd ass schedules because of rain delays and everything else. Anyway, getting back to it, it's just that Nicky Lopez has the opportunities. And you're right. You're absolutely right that Preston Tucker has fatigue issues. But when you also look at the other guys too, from, just looking at the batting leaders, most of the guys that are on these teams are going to be between 1 and 10 on teams' top 30 prospects.
Because the Arizona Fall League is essentially a precursor to them starting the year in AAA.
Mm-hmm.
And being MLB ready this coming season, or at least the next season after.
Mm-hmm.
Because they want them to be playing against the top prospects from each team.
Yes, and how it's all set up, I'm really interested in the Arizona Fall League now because of how it's all set up. But it's like they have 6 teams, like I brought up.
And
but for
prospects from different teams play on a team together.
Yeah, so looking at
the Royals don't, like the Royals or the Cardinals, they don't have a specific fall league team. They have a specific fall league team they play for,
mm-hmm.
but it could be combined with the Angels, the Astros prospects.
And actually I could tell you this right now. So they are together on a team, the Cardinals and the Royals, but they are with the Minnesota Twins, the Tampa Bay Rays, and the Texas Rangers.
Okay.
So I mean, there's a lot of these. I mean, it's going to be 5 major league teams within one AFL team, and I want to say Arena Football League, but which I believe is defunct. But anyway, so how it's all set up.
Still going on.
How it's all set up, nice. I'm glad that they're not defunct. I think it's somewhat better than the NFL. But that's a whole different story, not about baseball. Anyways, so yeah, they have 6 teams. 5 teams are in this one club for the Arizona League. So, I mean, the Glendale Desert Dogs have the Chicago White Sox, Cleveland Indians, Los Angeles Dodgers, Philadelphia Phillies, and the Pirates. And I don't remember who actually won it because I have to go through like all these news articles and everything else. But
which isn't a big concern.
But you're right.
The overall point is that those teams send their top prospects that they believe to be MLB ready that will get a spring training invite to play against the top talent that the league can offer that's not already in the MLB.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, we saw a decline with Preston, not Preston Tucker, Kyle Tucker. But yeah, it's with all that, you could see that they're facing top tier prospects. This isn't rookie ball where one guy could really outshine the other. This is like I said, the cream of the crop.
Yep. And we saw what Kyle Tucker did, and he had a good year in Double-A and High A.
Mm-hmm.
So look at him; he'll be the type of guy that most likely will start the year in Double-A.
Mm-hmm.
There'd be no reason for him to start in High A. He starts in Double-A. If he's blowing it out of the water, he'll get called up to Triple-A.
Mm-hmm.
And in Triple-A, if for a month and a half, same thing, he's playing like his head's on fire, then if there's room for him, the Astros have no choice to call him up.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, their best bet is if he's playing that well going into July,
mm-hmm.
he'll be a great trading chip for one of their needs.
Mm-hmm.
Either it be bullpen or another starting pitcher, or if somebody gets hurt, something like that.
Mm. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, for Kyle Tucker, just looking at him, for what I can see, is you're right. You are definitely right that he'll probably become a top piece when they're in arbitration with their core, and when they're about to hit free agency with their core, he's going to be there. Possibly Derek Fisher. Maybe it's the opportunity. Yeah. Maybe they do put him up there, and they do put him in the quote unquote Garrett Cole trade, and maybe it's a better opportunity for him because with the Pirates. Because from what I know is that there's not a lot of outfield great, I guess, or highly touted outfield prospects for the Pittsburgh Pirates. But, I mean, it's all speculation, right?
Yep.
Because,
I
mean, just because
nothing else is happening.
Nothing else is happening. Everybody was dead set that this deal was done, set, but then 25 minutes later, we all get the phone call saying that it didn't happen at all. So it's just like, we can all speculate. And I think Kyle Tucker would probably be, I mean, if they didn't have trade restrictions on him, I think he would be the top guy of that trade, and with Derek Fisher also. Get the guy that can play outfield now, and then get the kid, get the young kid that can play.
2 years.
Yeah. When, if he gets good at bats in Double and Triple-A, and McCutchen
if the Pirates get him,
yeah,
he would essentially replace McCutchen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he would be the future player for McCutchen. I don't know he would receive a lot of love like McCutchen does, but I mean,
if you're good enough, you will.
Yeah, exactly. But
really,
yeah, go ahead. Final thoughts. I should say.
Final thought. As much as it's been talked about today, I feel like there will be a deal done, but I don't think it will happen today.
Yeah, I'm just like looking at Twitter, and I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, no, I keep refreshing Ken Rosenthal's Twitter page, and nothing's being said.
Mm.
The only other big news is it's been reported that Starlin Castro wants to be traded.
Of course.
And if you all don't remember, he was traded from the Yankees to the Marlins for that Giancarlo Stanton trade.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is most MLB teams are set at second base.
Mm.
Because on the market, Neil Walker and Howie Kendrick are still available on the free agency market.
Mm-hmm.
And they could pay them considerably less than Starling Marte's $10 million contract this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know you're right. You're right. And I have to say, for my final thought on this whole situation with the whole trade thing, is that why I get it that sources, they're sources because they're the insiders. But it just seems like the past few weeks they've been shut out of the conversation because we don't hear anything, or they've been, I guess, deceiving or deceptive, and I guess trying to get somewhat of a feel for what the hell's going on. And this really, it's about to set in as like almost hypothermia for baseball fans, because it's just like, since the winter meetings, nothing has happened at all. Yes, we've heard rumblings and everything else, but nothing has happened since that. And it's just like, somebody needs to start, getting the logs in the fireplace and start making a fire, or just, start the stove up back again, because this is, to me, it's getting ridiculous. And again, we can all speculate what the hell's going on and stuff, but what can we do? All we can do is just refresh our Twitter pages and hopefully something gets done. But anyway, enough of hot stove business, because really that's the only thing that was going on today. Earlier this week, though, the MLB and the Players Union brought up in meetings this week that they're going to be thinking of pitch clock again, which they didn't do last year, because from my understanding of the recent CBAs that they had, the collective bargaining agreement, is that if you want to talk about something, you have and try to implement something, the MLB has to MLB front office, I should say, has to give a 1-year notice about a possible change in the rules, and then they have the year to, I guess, make evident, look at evidence, gather, everything for it for this upcoming meeting. Nothing has gone on with that, but it still brings up the question, the pitch clock. Is it something that baseball desperately needs, or is it just a gimmick just to look like, just to look like it's better? Yeah. And Phil, I want you to take this first, because I'm a guy that has worked the pitch clock. And I think in the minor leagues, to be honest with you, has definitely been, it's really helped the minor leagues a lot.
Well, hey, before we get into that, the hot stove just heated up.
Really?
Balboni Fummeyer just signed a minor league contract with the Nationals.
Oh God, why you gotta do this shit to me? Why you gotta tell the fans about this? Who is this? Steve? What's his name?
Look him up.
Steve Balboni?
No, Balboni Fummeyer.
Oh God.
No, he was a really highly touted prospect. Blue Jays had him when he was like 16, and he's just never been, he never was able to live up to the hype. He played for the Royals last year or a year before. It's just a good feel-good story because he keeps trying, and he's almost there. But, no, I'll get back to the pitch clock.
I was like, Steve Balboni getting signed. Nice.
I like the idea, but I don't like the 20-second idea.
Okay. Because that's what happens in the minor leagues.
I think it should be a 30-second.
Okay. I could see that.
Just because, at the major league level, catchers are changing signs constantly when it comes to runners on first, runners on second, so they're not picking up on sign calling, and it would allow the pitcher and catcher slightly less stress if they are changing signs in the middle of a at bat.
Okay. Anything else to add with that?
No, I would like to see a pitch clock because what is I want to know the average though. What is the average?
The average seconds from
taking the ball and putting their foot on the rubber. What is the average time that the pitch is delivered?
Okay. If I can remember everything, you know what? I'm going to see if I still have the email of this because again, being the pitch clock, this is me being an insider now. This is a one in a lifetime opportunity to be the insider of a working pitch clock. So first of all, it is technically when the pitcher can already be on the rubber when he's messing with the ball, trying to get the signs. It is when the ball comes into the set position, usually when he figures out when he's ready to pitch, and everybody knows what the set looks like. Either he's down low, looking at what the pitch should be, and then once he gets the sign, he raises up, puts his hand and puts his throwing hand and glove hand together with the ball in his hands, and then usually then the windup. The clock is supposed to implement, if I can talk while I'm looking at Texas League stuff. The clock is supposed to implement that. Okay. Sorry, I'm still trying to figure out all this stuff. Anyway.
Hello. This short video
that
will
is not
demonstrate
it.
how to use the new.
Did you hear that?
Yes, I did.
I hope you did. That is something that is pertaining to this, but it is not the. It is not that. Okay, let's just go through this anyways. I don't need the paper because I remember everything. So the pitch clock is from when the pitcher gets the ball to when he is set. So when that happens, the clock starts when the pitcher has the ball in his hand and when he is in the dirt circle. All right, the pitching mound. When both feet are in the pitching circle. And sometimes pitchers, they have the force, they have so much force that they get off the mound when they pitch. So sometimes they're on the grass. But the catcher might throw the ball to them, but they're still on the grass. So that is kind of a way to hold on for a couple seconds before the clock goes. But when both of his feet are in the pitching circle on the mound, the clock starts. And usually it really depends on what the pitcher, his style is. Because again, it's from when the ball is on the mound in the pitcher's hands to when he is in the set position. Usually, like I said, it depends on his style. Is he a go-get-'em pitcher? Is he quick? He gets the signs real quick. He knows what's going on. Or is he a slow type of pitcher? Because I've dealt with both guys, and nobody's on base. And that's where it becomes concerning, because the relievers are usually the slower ones from what I've dealt with. Because when I deal with the starters, when I'm doing the clock, they're about 10 to 8 seconds left on the clock, and then it's off because they get into the set position and then throw the ball. When it's the relievers, though, it can take forever. And I get it that their pitches count more because it's near the end of the game. They're either, trying to get the save or the hold, or they're trying to, stop the damage that's already been done. But they take, from my thing, is that they take a longer time because they got to throw the perfect pitch. And that's where it becomes a little bit tricky. But those are lower numbers. Sometimes some relievers, throw with between the, 10 to 8 second mark, maybe a little higher. I mean, when Mike Leake was with the Cardinals last year, when they did the whole battle for Route 66 or battle for 44 Highway, whatever. Mike Leake, he got the ball. The clock started. The ball was out of his hands 16 seconds later. 4 seconds later, because he had 16, 15, 14 seconds left on the countdown, and he get it out quick. Again, it just depends on how quick the pitcher throws. Also, I think a lot of things are not being said when it comes to the reporting of this. Of course, the whole 20-second rule is like, oh my God. But also, when an out happens, the pitcher gets 30 seconds. So every time that there's a new batter up, there's a 30-second clock, which is not being talked about. I don't know why that's not being talked about. So the 30-second clock. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, we've talked about the pitch clock before on this show.
Mm-hmm.
And, one of the comparisons I brought up was the NBA. When a player has to shoot a free throw, they get 10 seconds to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow they can do it.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say it is like pitching, but it is almost like it because each player has a different routine before they shoot their free throw, just like every pitcher has a different routine before they pitch their pitch.
Yep.
And if, as a professional athlete, they can do it in 10 seconds, I bet a pitcher can do it in 20 to 30 seconds.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be a reason why it's taking 45 seconds to a minute for them to throw every pitch.
Well, like you said, it's all about different pitchers. But from all the starting pitchers that I've dealt with this year, doesn't mean with the Springfield Cardinals. It means all the 8 clubs that I dealt with when I was working with the Cardinals this past year. All pitchers have different styles, but it seems to me the starting pitchers have a range of 11 to 8 seconds left on the clock when they're in the set and throw. For the relievers, it's a little bit lower. It's about 8 to probably 2. There's been times where with one Cardinals pitcher, I do not believe he's on the team anymore because he's just horrible, that the guy would get literally to 1 second and then he's set and throws. That's 20 seconds. But then you got to add another 2 to 3 seconds for him to actually do the wind up and throw. The actual wind up the throw. He takes 19 seconds out of the 20 to set himself up and then takes 2 to 3 seconds to throw. So that's where it's becoming a problem. Is not just the longer guys, but the guys that are having, it's indecisive a little bit. Again, relief pitching has a different mentality than starting pitching. They all have the same concept. Get the batter out the best way you can with the pitch types that you have. But getting that mindset, that mentality of getting ready and going is very different. And like I brought up before, the whole 30-second clock. The 30-second clock is a very wonderful thing when there's an out or the first at bat of the inning. And I should say actually that depending on whether the umpires want to call it off or not, because the umpires can call off time no matter what. And there's been moments first at bat of the inning, well the half inning, my bad, that there might be 40 seconds left on the clock. And out of the 2:30 that you give for the for the mid-inning or end-of-inning intermission, and there'll be 40 seconds. They'll call it off. So first pitch of that half inning is probably not recorded, as with time. Of course, it's always recorded because there's a pitch that happens. But after that, every other pitch has time. And when it's the first out or the second out happens, there's a 30-second clock. But what has to happen doesn't matter if it's a fly out. It doesn't matter if it was a strikeout. Because if it was a strikeout, they throw it around the horn. That is baseball's big thing, throwing it around the horn and then giving it to the pitcher. No matter what happens, the pitcher has to touch the ball. Or it has to be in the infield, really close to the pitcher, especially on the outfield outs, the fly outs. Because some fly outs might literally be on the warning track. And sometimes the either the executive or the umpire, depending on who's umpiring and all that stuff, will start the time right there. So how the hell are players going to get that 30 seconds from out in from the warning track to the pitcher in a 30-second time frame, but also get ready and get set for him to throw a pitch and for the batter to get set too? Because that's another thing too. That's another thing that isn't being brought up too. The pitch clock is not only for the pitchers. It's for the batters too. Because the pitcher could be set in the 20 seconds. But if the batter is effing around, it could be called a strike. It could be called an auto strike. If it's on the batter, if it's on the pitcher, it's an automatic ball, which I had to deal with once, which nobody wants that to happen. No,
I'm sure.
It is and again, we only had 2 warnings for the year, 2 calls of pitch clock violations for the year, which we tied, which I learned that we tied 2016 numbers. And I think we were second or first in the league when that stuff happens. So I see that it's a necessary evil. And even we have to go see the umpires when we're doing pitch clock and talk to them, see what's going on, tell them, hey, I'm here, yada, 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 anything that you like, we go by how the umpires are. But I've actually got to talk to the president of the Umpires Union of the Texas League. And he praised me for what I've been doing and really like how I work the clock and all that stuff. But he's really happy. He also said, like I've been saying, it's a necessary evil. It's to make the game go faster because they have to deal with stupid promotions, which can take forever. And if
the players are getting used to it in the minor leagues now,
it will translate that into the majors. And I think for the next if they want to do this, I think it has to be a progress of 5 years for the MLB.
2020 or 2021
will be the end of it if they do it this year. And the reason why is because you're dealing with guys that are veterans up in the majors that have never,
oh my God.
that have never dealt.
Could you imagine dealing with some of the old school baseball guys?
I do deal with them when I worked, but yeah.
Yeah. That are so opposed to a simple rule change where it makes them almost have an aneurysm. Because that's not what baseball is. Oh my God. It's
funny. And I could get into a lot of things, the reason why they want to implement the pitch clock. Because it's usually the entertainment value. And I'm not saying about the baseball entertainment. It's about ad revenue and promotions. That is no joke. Because
all about the money.
Yeah, it's all about the money. It's all about, because I've dealt with promotions, because not only that it's a baseball rule with pitch clock, but it's also a rule for field promotions. If they're doing they have a pizza pop-up challenge where 3 guys go out there. They have the stupid launcher thing that launches the baseballs up, and they have to catch him. Blah blah blah. Sometimes it goes over the recommended limit. They have to be off the field within the 45-second mark. Sometimes it goes over. Sometimes it doesn't. Most of the times it doesn't, but sometimes it does. Sometimes it's the stupid inflatable oh my God. The inflatable chair oh my God, I can't think of the word. Anyway, I can't think of the word. It's the stupid game where the music's on, you go around the chairs, then once the
musical chairs?
Musical chairs, thank you. Couldn't think of that.
You
couldn't
said
think
it
of that. You couldn't think
about
that.
The chairs and the music, people were running around.
Yeah, couldn't think of it. Anyway, that is one of the promotions that actually goes over time. And that's where it gets, beyond. Because that affects the field. But see, the best promotions are off the field. Are still in front of the fans, but are, close to the state, they're still within the fans, usually on top of the dugouts for the baseball teams. And I still keep on getting ridiculous tweets about Garrett Cole. Anyway, those are the best ones because it doesn't affect it on field, and they can get that done. I mean, they still get it done within the 45-second mark. They still treat it as that, even though it's off the field. Those are fun because it's just like, oh, look at this guy, get this question wrong, and now he has to it's just better. It is better because they have a putt-putt challenge where you answer 3 questions, you start far away, and if you answer the question, you get more money, but you get closer to the hole, and then you can double your money by putting it, try to put it in, or just take the money, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, those are the best ones because it doesn't affect the baseball players, the managers, the umpires, and me. Because the quicker those people are off the field, the quicker that the players can start playing baseball. And that's where it becomes an obstacle. That's the reason why minor league baseball is losing revenue. Not only because top prospects move, whenever they're hot and they go up or down, or cold, they go down. But it's also because the length of the games, because there's so much on the pitching, which of course they want to make sure that everything's correct. They want to, because it's their livelihoods. It's these minor league livelihoods. But there's other things that are not being talked about with the whole pitch clock situation that should be talked about. On-field promotions should only happen in the early innings. The reason why is because those guys can go and pitch quick. The off-field promotion should be happening in the later innings because that's where it's going to get, a little bit tricky because you get the relievers, they're going to take all the time in the world, and most of the time by the 7th inning, a team it's either a close game or a blowout, and I'll say 75 to 80% of that are blowouts. And they're fun. They're still fun to watch, especially if your team's winning. But by the time that happens, you're already having 25 to 50% of your starting attendance go down significantly. I mean, this is, when you get to the later innings, it shows how much you love the game of baseball. And I know we've talked about this before in our Twitter group, on here, even off recording in persons with other people, that the longer you stay shows how much you love the game of baseball and the club. Because if you're just there for the couple innings and it's getting to the nitty-gritty and you want to leave, you're not a baseball fan. You were just there for the entertainment. But if you stay there for the, to the 9th, even in the later innings, because you want to see that spectacular moment, you are a true blue guy. You're a true blue fan, woman, whoever, It's just that the reason why they want to bring down why they want to have the pitch clock, it's all about the money. It's all about the ad revenue. It's all about on-field promotions. It's all about cost of efficiency on, getting food and alcohol to people. It's also kind of, like you brought up earlier, the development of players towards the future. Because if they get in this, I guess it would be this rhythm that they would have. I was about to say circadian rhythm, but that's about sleep. If they get into that rhythm of, having to pitch in 20 seconds, then there's an opportunity that there's an opportunity that it will be translated into the MLB. That's why, we brought up earlier that it should only be in for 5 years. You said 2021, which that would be 3 years. Because the older guys that are in the league now, that have been in the league since 07, 08, to 2013, 2014, those guys haven't dealt with a pitch clock. And sometimes that needs to happen. And yes, some of the guys that they get for the pitch clock, some of the pitchers that they get aren't that fast. But if they can throw within the 20 seconds, then that's perfectly fine. But it's all about the other things with baseball. It's all about the ad revenue, which definitely helps them, grow the game even more. I mean, the WBC this past year was a monstrous success only because the United States won it. Because there's been times where the United States would, get out in the, before the championship rounds, and there's hardly anybody at Dodger Stadium or Safeco Field or AT&T Park, and it looks horrible on TV. Nobody wants to watch that because it's a dull game, even though it's against two really great teams. It just shows, this past year with the ad revenue, with the team, with the Team USA winning it all, it definitely showed that there's more opportunities to get more money. But if the pitch clock is if there's a pitch clock to do that, it's going to hinder it a little bit. And that's where it gets a little bit confusing. But when it comes to play on the field, I think they should have it. Definitely in the MLB, like I said, for 5 years, because it will definitely be great for the players that are coming up, about to take over the old, some of the old veteran roles, and it'll be good for them. But the bad thing is, it's all going to be about, whether it is going to, be good or not. I mean, a game's 3 hours long. Why is everybody complaining? Because football is the same way. The shortest game that nobody wants to talk about in this whole situation is basketball and soccer. Those games get done within two 2 to 2 hours and 30 minutes. Football goes forever. I felt like that Chiefs game this past week went on for 4 hours. Another football game went on for 4 hours. Why is nobody talking about that? Baseball is okay. Yes, it went over the 3-hour mark, which was the first time in history that it happened in game time length. But baseball is fine. The only thing that baseball needs to do, and we'll talk about this in the future, is reaching to this new technological audience. And they've started doing that this past year with MLB games, MLB Game of the Day on Twitter and Facebook, which is pretty cool. Don't get me wrong. It's one of the coolest things. But they need to start doing other things for people to get into the seats and not worried about the on-field product. Because we already have great on-field product. I mean, even though we might see 4 years of evil empire winning it all, it just shows that the product on the field is not bad, even though the pitch clock does need to happen for the older veterans to get into a groove. But by the time, like you said, 2021 or 2020 or 2022, I don't think there's a need of that, because if the MLB wants to embrace technology in viewership and ad revenue and everything else, then everything will be fine. 3-hour games are not that bad. Usually 3-hour games are the tight games. Yes, there's some games that are a blowout and somehow go to 3 hours. But those are more of a rarity than those tight games at the 3-hour mark. Hell, you're watching a football game for 3 to 4 hours. What's the problem? At the end of it, I say, just to reaffirm, pitch clock does need to happen. But 5 years from now, probably not, because the minor leagues are going to keep the pitch clock no matter what, because they need that for the game. Because it's different in the majors to the minors. But it is going to show that the game could be developed. The game could make more money and better timing in different areas than worry about a pitch clock on the field. So, I mean, that's my take. I know I've been taking up like the last 10 to 15 minutes about it, but so yeah, that's pretty much what I have about that. There's a lot of things that the pitch clock talk is not really being talked about, but that's just, the scratch on the surface.
A scratch on the surface, man. That was more like an old man rant.
Yeah, sometimes I have those. I mean, especially when big defeats happen, or really something that nobody's really talking about in a certain topic and it's happening. But anyway, what can I say? I mean, we got to talk about the beer, because we've already talked about everything that we can talk about. So, Phil, what are you having today?
Today I'm having Logboat Bobber Pale Lager. That unintentionally rhymed for me, so it threw me off there for a minute.
That is okay. That is okay. I don't think I've actually had a pale lager. Could you explain that to me? And to
essentially what
listeners?
It is, they use pale German. It's a pale German lager yeast, and they use noble hops.
Okay.
So and it's unfiltered. So what you're gonna get is a little bit of floral notes from it.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna provide a little bit of bitterness, but most of all, it's just gonna be a clean beer that tastes like beer.
Nothing wrong with that. I mean, beer to me always tastes like beer, except for the macros, but I mean, that's whatever.
Yeah.
But no,
what are you drinking today?
But that actually sounds delicious. First of all, I should say that. For me, I will have the picture out later for the Untapped app, but I am drinking a Boulevard Pale Ale So we're going
Classic.
Nothing wrong with it. You know, it has its little bit of, bite to it, and just a normal pale ale. I know it's not like Sierra Nevada, which is the home of the American style pale ale. Um, but I mean, it's very, very delicious, especially on this weird 50/60 degree weather day in the middle of January, which 2 days ago.
That's why.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's why I felt like I needed to go with this type of beer today.
Yeah, because it should be like 30, 40 degrees out, maybe a little wet. I mean, it is a little bit wet down here in Springfield, but
I would say it's a little bit more moist.
watch out for that word. Watch out for that word. But the funny thing about this is I couldn't find my normal koozie that I use when I'm having a bottle. So I'm using my all-day IPA koozie, canned, I believe. Isn't it only in cans?
No, they have it in bottles,
Okay.
and then they have it in 12-ounce cans, and then they also offer it in a 19.7-ounce can as well.
See, usually I would have, the can of it, and it wouldn't be the normal 12-ounce can or the bottle, of course.
It's a tall boy.
It's the tall boy koozie, and I love it because it's just like it kind of acts like a little discreet thing, hides what I'm drinking a little bit, even though it's very obvious in a way. But I mean, I really enjoy the I guess the extra large tall boy version of the koozie. But yeah, that's what I'm drinking today. I mean, I don't know what I'll else be drinking today, but I know it's going to be delicious no matter what. So
what I got in my fridge right now,
yeah, go ahead.
I got 2 bottles of the Scotch on Scotch left from Boulevard.
Ooh, good.
I also have a 16-ounce can of Mother's Coconut Extra Stout.
I have not tried that yet.
Also, Wife has had it, and she really enjoyed it. I mostly bought it for her because I'm not a huge coconut fan.
Mm-hmm.
And then yesterday, I got a 15-pack of Founders Centennial IPA.
Uh-huh.
For $14.99.
Nice.
Yeah. So, what else? Oh, I got Deschutes Black Butte. Oh man, I gotta look it up. It's not their normal Black Butte Porter.
Yeah, I was about to say the Black Butte Porter.
No,
which is good.
This is their. No, it's good, but this is their 23rd anniversary. Yeah, okay, it's their Black Butte. It's Roman numeral 29.
Okay.
And it is an imperial porter brewed with Dutch coca, Sagon cinnamon, and cayenne.
Oh man, getting fancy with those adjuncts.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. Again, wife is a huge fan of porters and stouts, so I'm gonna have to wait to drink that with her. It is also 12%, so I shouldn't drink the whole bottle by myself.
Even though you'll probably will. Sometimes I do.
Oh yeah, no. There's been multiple times where I'm like, this Russian Imperial Stout, 750 milliliters. I'm just gonna go ahead and drink the whole thing. It's fine.
Yeah, we got the stomachs and the livers to do that. Why not?
Yeah.
Because that's how it usually is for me.
Exactly. But really, that's about it for today, isn't it?
Yeah, I was actually about to go through my beer list real quick. I still have the believe it's the 2017 edition of the Saison Brett by Boulevard.
Need to drink it. It's delicious.
I think I'm gonna wait to drink it until probably the start of spring training. I don't know. Then I have Love Child number 8. No, I have Love Child number 5, when I got the Harvest Dance and Love Child number 5 at home for Christmas. And then I still have my trilogy, or the beerology, if I'm saying that correctly, which Boulevard has 3 bomber bottles of oak-aged beers, and it was all the Rye on Ryes, which was the 16 Rye on Rye, the 2017 Rye on Rye, and then they have like the special edition Rye on Rye that's supposed to be like a Scissorac, if I'm saying that correctly.
Oh,
cocktail. Yeah, the cocktail one, which I haven't tried yet. Of course, all of them, since they're oak aged and they're rye beers, they're pretty hefty on the AVBs, so I'm going to wait on that. But like you said before I went through that, it is the end of the show, folks. Very short, of course. Again, nothing was going on in baseball. A very, very quiet week. If this happens again, we might have to like play some Dungeons and Dragons while we're talking about baseball or something, or just talk about OTP again. That was a fun show. But anyway, if you are listening to us on our website, we are also on iTunes, SoundCloud, and TuneIn, and also we're on an FM player too, which I just figured out the other day, which I guess takes the iTunes audio and adds it to its own website, which is really weird. But anyway, if you did or didn't hear before the podcast started, we are part of the Tangent Network, which has a multitude of genres in pop culture. Some of it is very nerdy. There's some very, very good shows on there. I know, Phil, that you enjoy the Salty Language podcast, and
yes,
they're a part of the Tangent Network. Please explain a little bit about that.
It's just, like you said, it's a plethora of different channels that have multiple shows, and if they don't have something you like, then what you like is not relevant.
I was about to say nothing.
Yeah. And Salty Language, they're now on Spotify as well.
Nice. Which now I have to get on Spotify as well and make sure everything else is going to work with that. But, I mean, besides that, I mean, the Tangent Network is a, like you said, plethora of everything. And I think the recent thing that they've been doing on there is that I believe the wrestling podcast on there is about to do their show on the next big WWE event. So that's going to be very interesting if you all are wrestling fans. Anyway, if you want to contact us, we have an email at majorleaguebeers@gmail.com. We are also on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Untapped. Trying to make sure that I'm not missing any other social medias. Oh, we are also on YouTube and Twitch, which I should say that because every Sunday night around 8 o'clock, I will be streaming live Out of the Park Baseball 18 games. And currently right now, I will be doing part 3, officially part 3, of the Lucky Sevens tournament, which is teams that won the World Series in the year that ended in a 7. So it's been very interesting, kind of predictive in a way. My team fell out early that I predicted early, the 1927 Murderers Row Yankees, New York Yankees, which I thought they were going to do well, but they didn't. But now it's down to the final 4 of that. If I remember correctly, it will be the St. Louis Cardinals against the, yes, I do remember, the 1967 St. Louis Cardinals versus the Florida Marlins of 1997, and then crosstown rivalry. This is the one that I'm going to enjoy. The crosstown rivalry of the 1907 Chicago Cubs versus the 1917 Chicago White Sox, the team that won it before they became the Chicago Black Sox, even though that was the 1918 World Series. Pretty much they still had the same members on the team. So I like doing that. It's very fun. I really get into it. Probably it helps me, help me when I'm doing announcing and all that stuff. But it's still very interesting to see all these teams that won it in the year that ended in the 7 play in this tournament and see where the best players from, the best Hall of Famers of those teams do. So, I mean, right now, Orlando Cepeda is probably the best hitter in that. But anyway, getting on to the rest of this, we also have ways for you to contact us individually, usually on our Twitter pages, which mine is the real AWS 13. And Phil, what is yours?
At Philco816.
Alrighty, folks, that will again do it here for us on the MLBeers podcast. Of course, you can look at all of our other episodes on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, and TuneIn. Start watching me on Twitch. Hopefully, one of these days I can get this Skype interview, quote unquote, our recordings onto Twitch, so we can maybe do once a month live podcast on Twitch. It would be very, very fun to do. So anyway, to do it here for us for the MLBeers podcast, our motto, our creed, our saying, win or lose, there is always booze.